let's get to the first David Leitch directed film, which is Atomic Blonde from 2017. And technically, he did co-direct the first John Wick, but he's not credited for that. It stars Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, John Goodman, Eddie Marsan, Sophia Boutella, Toby Jones, Bill Skarsgård. And the synopsis is an undercover MI6 agent is sent to Berlin during the Cold War to investigate the murder of a fellow agent and recover a missing list of double agents. I saw this one in theaters way back when. Don't think I had watched it all the way through since then. And I like Cold War spy stuff as well, which I think is still an underused setting. There's not a lot of Cold War films like this. And it was based off a graphic novel called The Coldest City. Atomic Blonde is a much better name, so good call there. In terms of David Leitch's style, he's a former stuntman, so unsurprisingly, he has a big focus on action films with a focus on the stunt work. Having just talked about the Russo brothers recently, you could kind of put them in the same ballpark, I guess, in that they both blend a lot of action with humor and still try and maintain a focus on character work. But I would say that David Leitch has a lot more violence, hardcore violence, stylish violence in his films. Some things I really like, and one of the reasons why I want to watch whatever he does is, as of now, he always picks different kinds of projects. Yes, they're all action films, but he's not just doing the same franchise over and over again. Coming back around to Atomic Blonde, it's been at about the same level both times. Overall, I think it's quite solid. By far my biggest problem, and one of the only issues, I think, is pacing. And that's something that is an issue throughout all of his films, to his best, to his worst. There are just always points, usually in the latter half, when either his own direction focus or the script itself starts to fumble somewhat. Because everything on the surface of this movie, great. The very colorful nature of even like the opening credits, the production design, the costume design, and despite the fact that it's taking place in Berlin in the winter where everything is very dreary and cold, it still looks very beautiful in how it's shot. The 80s pop soundtrack is a nice touch and gives it a little bit more flair and energy when it could fall flat at points. I don't mind a convoluted plot in something like this because it is, espionage, and you don't know who you can trust. You don't know what information is coming from where, and so it's kind of meant to be a little messy. But aside from what the IMDb synopsis says, I could not really explain to you what happened in this movie or why it happened. The opening, when you meet Charlize Theron's character, and not many actors can pull off a convincing British accent, but I thought she did. But one great visual in that sequence that shows you a lot is the ice bath. When you see how bruised and scarred that her body is, that initial car chase when she's flipped over and she meets James McAvoy, who's also very enjoyable in this. The one that stands out and seems to be the most celebrated, for good reason, is the apartment fight when there's this long take of Charlize Theron shooting and beating up countless bad guys. It's a really incredible piece of not only stunt work on her part, but of also filmmaking, of choreographing that and getting it all done in a single take. Sophia Boutella and Charlize Theron have a great sort of romance in this, and Sophia Boutella, amazing. Charlize Theron's bleached blonde hair is great, really sticks out in a good way. 4 out of 5. All right, let's get to Deadpool 2, which came out 1 year later in 2018. It, of course, stars Ryan Reynolds as well as Josh Brolin, Marina Baccarin, Julian Dennison, Zazie Beetz, TJ Miller. And the synopsis is: foul-mouthed mutant mercenary Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, assembles a team of fellow mutant rogues to protect a young boy with abilities from the brutal, time-traveling cyborg, Cable. I actually only got around to seeing this one about a month ago for the first time. I had seen the first one and I watched Deadpool and Wolverine back when it came out. Maybe hot take. I like Deadpool, alright. The first one is still by far my favorite, but there's just something about the Ryan Reynolds Deadpool shtick that has gotten so old so quick for me. I can take it in little increments, but that's about it. I know some people just love Deadpool more than anything. I'm not really there yet. As well as I hate that since Ryan Reynolds has broken out or had this huge renaissance because of Deadpool, he just is Deadpool all the time. In interviews, he's Deadpool. In other films, oftentimes, he's basically just Deadpool again. This would be my least favorite of the three. I think it's alright. It's watchable, but I don't really see myself going back to this one again anytime soon. Not to be too negative, but is what it is. I don't like it when studios will cast the same actor in another role who's already been in a very big role before in that same universe. So Josh Brolin as Cable in this when he's already been Thanos. Yes, technically the X-Men universe is different from the main MCU, but it's still close enough. Going from Marvel to DC, that's fine. That's a big enough jump. But as much as I like Josh Brolin in this and as an actor in general, wish they had chosen someone else. And there's also not a lot to that character. I think the design of Cable is great, but the writing is pretty weak, and I just didn't really care that much about his motivation. The one saving grace of this movie, though, is Zazie Beetz. I enjoy Deadpool's little circle of friends, like the old lady at the apartment, the cab driver, the girlfriend, even though she gets killed off early on. The opening credits were funny. I was disappointed that Brianna Hildebrand, who plays Warhead, she's not in it that much. I liked the love interest of her as well, but I wish they had way more screen time. Brad Pitt's cameo in this, as well as Bill Skarsgård, is so random and just seems completely unnecessary. Action-wise, the prison fight where everyone turns on Deadpool, the city chase is, I think, my favorite. It maybe went on a little too long, but it was still a lot of fun and a lot of good effects and stunt work. The best gag was when it seemed like Deadpool was dying, but he kept on living and monologuing. I know the baby legs gag is supposed to be weird and strange, and it is. The effects, I don't really care that the effects at this point don't look great. Maybe that's also the point, considering it's Deadpool. The soundtrack and score are decent, but nothing really that memorable. I can appreciate that as of now, Ryan Reynolds is stopping with the trilogy. Like, he's not just going to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 out of 5. Let's get to Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw, which came out in 2019. So Leitch was just churning these things out. Stars Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, Idris Elba, Vanessa Kirby, Helen Mirren, Isaac Gonzalez. And the synopsis is: lawman Luke Hobbs and outcast Deckard Shaw form an unlikely alliance when a cyber-genetically enhanced villain threatens the future of humanity. Like Deadpool 2, I saw this one actually the same night as I watched that one, had a bit of a David Leitch marathon. When it comes to Fast and Furious, I have nothing against it. I know some people really rag on it, but, you know, it's a big, dumb action franchise, but it seems to be very aware of that. I think my favorite is still Fast 5, with Furious 7 maybe being a close second, and even this one is in the top 4 or 5. The plot is standard stuff. Evil guy trying to destroy the world, and Hobbs and Shaw, who hate each other, they have to team up, and they're joined by Vanessa Kirby, who's awesome. Idris Elba He's a great villain in this, and he also has the good physicality and keeps up very well with Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson. I've also started to come around on Dwayne Johnson. I don't think he's ever going to be a brilliant actor, but I've seen most of his films as of now, and he has a decent presence. He's fun. He has good charisma. As for David Leitch, he directs it well enough. There's some pretty big action, like the final sequence with the helicopters, the city chase with the motorcycles towards the beginning, the breakout from that warehouse. And even though it's pretty goofy, the main fight in the third act, when they're back at Dwayne Johnson's home and his whole family and village has spears and bows and arrows and things, and they're fighting against the very high-tech bad guys. It is way too long. It's almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. I think as a rule, all of these movies should be less than 2 hours. There's so little plot, and I'm sure that no one is going there for the plot. 3 out of 5 for that one as well. All right, let's get to the fourth David Leitch film, which is Bullet Train from 2022. Stars Brad Pitt, Joey King, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry, Andrew Koji, Hiroyuki Sanada, Sandra Bullock, Logan Lerman, Zazie Beetz, Bad Bunny, Michael Shannon. And the synopsis is: 5 assassins aboard a swiftly moving bullet train find out that their missions have something in common. This was another first-time watch for me. I know that a lot of people love this movie and say it's one of the better action films of that year and even just recently from reviews I've read. I think more than anything, I appreciate that it is a original blockbuster that has a unique concept, a big cast. It's told in a very non-linear way, by far David Leitch's most complex movie to date. And for the first hour or so, I was really enjoying it. Aaron Taylor Johnson is someone who has grown a lot as an actor. He's awesome in it, and everybody is. I don't know why Bad Bunny was in it, kind of random, but he was okay, I guess. However, despite that initial enjoyment, this felt so long. It's only 2 hours, but it felt like 3 or more. I checked my watch early on thinking, oh man, we must be 50 minutes, an hour into this, and we were only 25 minutes in. I was like, there's no way. Cinematography-wise, fantastic. For the plot itself, I thought that the best section was the focus on Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson and that friendship there. Joey King was another highlight. Don't love her across the board, but all of the twists with that character worked, and the design of her as well. It is nice to see someone like Brad Pitt doing so well later in their career, because he's, always been a good actor, but at this point, he can really pick and choose what films he does. They don't have to be big hits. I'm sure he's getting a huge paycheck regardless, so he can just pick whatever interests him. Everything with the briefcase, which is basically a MacGuffin, doesn't have that much purpose, but it helps move the plot along. Also a 3 out of 5. All right, let's get to the last Leitch movie to date, which is The Fall Guy. Came out in 2024. Stars Ryan Gosling, Emily Blunt, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Hannah Waddingham, Teresa Palmer, and the synopsis is: a stuntman fresh off an almost career-ending accident has to track down a missing movie star, solve a conspiracy, and try to win back the love of his life while still doing his day job. I saw this one when it first came out, and I've rewatched it a few times since. It is one of my favorite movies of that year. By far my favorite Leitch movie. I would say this is a fantastic film across the board, and also one of my favorite Ryan Gosling films to date. What got me interested right off the bat is it's a film about filmmaking. You get the behind the scenes look at the actors, the crew, and shows you his daily grind, both the fun part of the job, as well as he does at the beginning, gets very injured. Similar to Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling is at that point in his career as well. He is at the top of his charm and charisma and energy and humor in this. Like, it is a perfect casting. And he and Emily Blunt are great together as well. The montages at the beginning, when it's showing him in his different stunt roles, like action movies, war movies, and the visual style of all that is top notch. When Ryan Gosling is heartsick over Emily Blunt and he's listening to Taylor Swift in the car and Emily Blunt comes up and sees him. Another big improvement over his last films is the third act is close to being my favorite part. It becomes this mix between Mad Max and Dune, Jason Momoa cameos there, but it's this huge movie set. It's also rare these days that I describe a movie like this and mean it truly in the best way, but it's just a cool movie. Like the fashion, the style, the vibe. It may not be your favorite movie of all time, but it's hard not to like. And if David Leitch can reach this kind of height in terms of filmmaking, I can't wait to see what he does in the coming years. Heavy 5 out of 5.